Hello, YouTubers, and welcome back to another episode of Slicey Boy Sunday here on the High Patriot Education Network YouTube channel. I'm, as always, your host, Early High Patriot. And for today's episode, we are going to be talking about three different blade steel knives. Specifically, we got four different knives. Obviously, two of them are the same blade steel. The other two are the opposite ones. So we got N690, 154 cm, and then DC53. So we have two different ones from F and Glow. We have a third one from GTKII, which I believe is the DC53 steel. And then we got this one from another company called Stedavan, I think that's how to pronounce it. Which, just to be clear, when I originally bought all these, they were all on sale. They were about half price of what they are now. Right now, I'm pretty sure every single one of these is at least $50 or more, which I would never pay that for. You guys know that for a fact. However, a lot of them were on sale for half price at the time that I bought them. So it was anywhere between like $35 and $40, I think, is what I paid for these individually. So, but they are some really nice blades. We're going to start out with the biggest boy of the bunch, which is the GTKII. Here's what it is. Just because I do want to show the size of some of these and how big they are. This might become a new EDC at some point in the future as well. So obviously this guy's little bubble wrap sheet there is what it is. And then the blade itself comes in this interesting Kydex sheath, which it almost looks like it has like cut holes right there to where you could like put something in there and do like some weird like blade sharpening or something, but it doesn't actually have any blade sharpening parts in there, so I'm not sure what exactly that's for. Unless maybe it's like air prevention or like air circulation or something, that's what it is. You can also put this on your belt multiple ways. You can do a belt loop right there is what it is. You have multiple holes depending on there, or you can simply do the thing right there. I don't really like these particularly, just because I prefer to have it be like an actual piece of like hard Kydex or whatever there. And then the thing is too, like, because this is so attached in there, you want that like unlatched like that. It's not going to do anything. So, but interesting little thumb ramp here on it. And then blade itself right there. And like I said, this is DC53 steel right there. So very nice overall. Big ass choil on it. That is at least the size of my finger. Actually bigger than my finger. Very nice feel on the handle here. I believe this handle is G10 material. I like how they hooked it too, because it's like almost like an indent. And it fits my hand almost perfectly is what it is. Like I even have a little bit extra space there, which is surprising because usually with these kind of knives, I don't have enough space there because my hand is so big. So to have like an extra finger length is really nice. And like I said, this is a big old chopper. I'm gonna take this thing out some point in the future, probably over the summer here to my aunt's place. Do a little bit of bushcraft down at the farm or whatever there. One thing I think is weird about this knife though is, so you have your obviously spots in the back there for if you would want to put paracord or something in there, but then there's like a paracord spot right here too in the actual blade at the very top there, which I find very strange. So I'm not sure what the hell the deal with that one. It just seems like very odd, especially considering that you would have the, like, especially if you're storing this obviously in the sheath, like naturally it's going to go, you know, all the way in there. So I don't know why you'd even be there if that be the case. So unless it's like ergonomical to get like a better swing or something, I'm not sure. But like I said, big old blade, feels good in the hand. Feels really good in the hand. So just to recognize how sharp this thing is too, by the way. Got my little Kraken. This is basically cardstock on this stuff. So hopefully I can get a good cut on this. You can definitely see the sharpness when I tried to cut it there, but yeah, it's like really hard to cut through this without like inadvertently cutting myself. So yeah, it just kind of tears through it there. I guarantee if I had like a better thing or something, I could probably get a better cut through this or whatever then. Maybe like a piece of cardboard or something maybe. So this might come back around in the future. It'd be like a cardboard chop test or something with this. So next up, we got this new knife company called, I think it's Civilityn. This was actually quite expensive before it was on sale, and even after it was on sale, it was still quite expensive. I think this one was around like 40-ish or so, give or take. And again, you guys know how I feel about that kind of stuff. Like, it doesn't really, like, a lot of these knives do not really need to be in that price range or higher, but they're still good blades, what it is. Obviously, you got your basic flow Kydex sheath there, what it is. Pop it around your belt and everything. Interesting little ramp there is what it is for it. Very nice looking blade. This is 154 cm. It is their SK22. Again, huge choil for the finger there. This is the thing that this is what I'm saying. Like with these knife companies, dude, like the ones that do it for, interesting. A couple little pieces of stuff coming out. I'm not sure if that was from the Kydex sheath or something, or if it was. I don't think it was from the knife, so it must have been cutting through its own sheath or something. Maybe even that be the case. But yeah, going back to what I was saying though, with the big choil, there's what it is for your finger. That's what you need to have. You need to have a knife big enough like this to be able to do that with it. Because the problem with some of these smaller knives, especially your pocket folders and stuff like that, is they're not big enough to have a big choil like that, to where it can almost be the size of your thumb, essentially. The one drawback I would say with this one compared to the DC53 GTKI is that while this has a decent spine up at the top here, it goes down into like this very thin spine to where, let's see if I can get the camera properly. Like it really should, like the whole thing should be like that thick really, but it like goes down to about half that size, and then you can see from the sides it starts to, it's almost like I did that purposely with like a CNC machine or something is what it is. And yeah, that was where that shit was coming off the top there is what it is. So it had to be from a Kydex sheath if that be the case. So wipe that off a little bit and see if it doesn't. Huh. I don't think this was returned, but that's a bunch of weird shit on there. Unless it had a bunch of oil on it or something before all this, which would make sense. Or the stone wash itself maybe is coming off, because it definitely is like a lot of dirt or something on there. So, huh. Very, very weird. Yeah, definitely like just it's like massive amounts of dirt or something on the stone wash here. Again, it's very possible it got that way from shipping or just being in its own sheath for a long time. Pretty nice handle. Has an interesting curvature to it. Not quite as cool as the GTKI one, but still decent. Again, if you can get these on sale, I'd say get them on sale. But if you can't get them on the sale, like these are not worth like $50+. I think that's what this cost without a sale on it. So I will say one thing: the handle material on this is feels very, very good in the hand. I don't know if this is G10 or not. Might be my Micarta handles actually, but it does feel very smooth, very good. But like I was saying earlier, besides the with the spine of the blade is there, being small on the top is what it is. The biggest drawback with this one is if you'd be using it as a bushcraft knife, the only ridges on it to do any kind of thing where you'd be starting fires would be right here is what it is. Like it has no other jimping on it at all, which I would think honestly with how big the spine is on the back here, like you would have like at least like a little bit of jimping like right here is what it is to do some strikage with then. Especially with that price point, because you're basically telling people like, hey, take us out into the woods, and they don't have any way to start a fire with us. What it is there, like it just seems stupid, honestly. To me, that's not a pure bushcraft knife. If that'd be the case, that's just like a plaything, essentially, is what it is there. So, at least where I'm coming from, anyway. Does have a nice lockup though. Come on, you freaking box. Stick that back in there for right now. And then the other two that we have are both effing glows. One of them is a N690. I believe the other one is a 134 CM. I'm not sure which is which. I think this one might be the 690, but I'm not sure. Yep, this is N690. Okay, so again, similar kind of sheath to the last one that we had there. Difference here, obviously, is you got a nice little thumb ramp on these effing glows, which I do like quite a bit because it does allow you to put your thumb like right in there and just get it to be easily pop off there. And again, going difference between the previous knife that we talked about and this knife, you got jimping right here, you got another set of jimping right there, and you even have a bunch of jimping underneath here is what it is. Which, when you have this in your hand, I would almost rather, like how this is smooth right here, I'd much rather have it smooth like that across the board. But I get wanting to have like multiple sets of jimping, that's what it is. And this was the, which one is this? This is F & Glow 138 and N690 steel. So, pretty nice knife, pretty big knife. Not quite as big as the last ones. The choil on it as well is not quite as large as the other two. But it does fit my hand pretty decently is what it is, though. Feels good in my hand. And that's all that really matters at the end of the day. This one I can probably do a decent cut test with, just because it's a little bit smaller than the last couple. Yeah, cut really, really smooth. Man, that cut right through like butter, honestly. Like freaking butter. So, I could easily see that being a very decent sharpness then, if that be the case. Because that definitely cut through that like very, very sharply. So, but yeah, like I said, nice feel to it. I believe these actually are micarta handles on this one. One thing I will say is it definitely does have like a different feel than the other two handles. So you can definitely tell the difference on that then. And compared to some of the other ones, like I know there are a lot of companies out there that will say they're full tang or whatever. And then there's some that are like a rat tang or whatever. This one, because of the way that it's scaled on there, you can basically tell there's definitely no, what you call it there, like it's got to be 100% full piece of steel there is what it is. So I can understand why this initially, without any kind of discounts on it, is $70, just because of that whole thing. Because I guarantee a lot of these other full tangs that I have out here that are like 25, 30, whatever it is there, they probably are like that rat tang where it's got like, and for those who don't know what rat tang is, basically, if it's full tang, it should look like this basically all the way through, like the size of the blade there. Or if it's a rat tang blade, it basically goes down and becomes about half that size, give or take, and basically becomes like kind of like a rat tail someplace in there. But like I said, with the fact the way these blade, the way that this is, and the way that the handles are on this one, I don't think you could actually pull that out without it being like noticeable basically. Also, what's nice about this is, and I probably will put a little piece of paracord right there in that little hole at the end. If I ever do this out in the woods or something like that, because that could probably be a pretty good deal is what it is then. But yeah, definitely very nice blade. And like I said, cuts very, very, very smoothly there. So yeah, this is my first and only N690. I believe I have, it's either 3 or 4 of the 134 CMs now, and then of course, 6 or 7 different DC53 blades currently. So moving on to the last and final knife that we have today. This one is the F & Glow 139. So that one was 138. This is 139. I believe this one is the CM 134, if I'm not mistaken. Very similar knife handle. I believe actually the exact same. Actually, I don't know. This one a little bit less red or orange coloration. One thing I will say about this, just looking at it before we even do anything, and this is a different story you can tell, obviously, because with that other one, you had the jimping underneath as well. This one does not. It has a full smoothness there is what it is. However, that being said, when you start looking into like little imperfections and stuff, you can start seeing, if this pick up on camera there, like right here on the Marcarta handle, and like a little bit back here, there's like a little bit of, it's almost like wear and tear. They didn't really scrape off properly or whatever there, or like clean up when they were doing like the final making of the knife is what it is there, and like installing everything. But different little drop point configuration to it as well. This one does, like the other one, have both jimping here and jimping up here. This is also, does it say? Yeah, there we go. 154 cm steel on this one. Choil is about the same. Actually, I guess that's maybe more closer to the size of the first two that I've talked about today. So, pretty interesting overall. Obviously, the biggest difference between the last one and this one is this has 4 different spaces in it to do paracord stuff through. So, and then we will do a cut test with this as well, just to show how good this is. Again, very, very smooth. Very, very, very smooth. Yeah, I could easily see that cutting through like a bunch of stuff. Do some campfire stuff with that or whatever. This might be a really good steak knife, honestly, at some point as well. It's just the way that cut through that paper like that, I could easily see that cutting through like some meat, like it's butter, basically. So, but yeah, you can find, I believe that when I bought this like a week or two ago, it was like $35 on sale. I don't think it is now. I think it's back to $70 now, but yeah, if you can get that $35 price point though, it's definitely worth $35, obviously. It's not worth $70 though. So, nor any of these other ones for that matter. So, yeah, I'd say if you can get them, if you can get them on 50% price drops, where they're like either 35 or 40 or so maximum, they're probably worth that. They are not worth $70, $75, $80, $100, whatever it is at that point then. So, but yeah, it is an interesting blade steel for sure. And we're going to go ahead and pull out the other one just to go ahead and pull out our N690 here just to show the slight differences between these two blades. Obviously, the biggest difference is you have the, I don't know what that would be, like an end grain or something there on both sides of this one versus the N690. looks more of a traditional buoy versus this one looks more of a drop point. I would say honestly with this too though, I believe these are both made micarta handles is what it is. This one feels like it's better micarta handle on it though, and you can kind of tell the difference there as well because this is not as ridged up as this one is. So this one feels like it has a little bit more heft to it though for the 154 CM. Because this N690, this feels like super, super light in my hand versus the 154 CM just feels like it's definitely got like several ounces of extra weight to it, it feels like. So I'm not sure which one of these would do a better like chop if that be the case than in the field. It would be the lighter one or if it would be the heavier one, but like I said, they're both good blades, both from the same company, obviously. Obviously, when you're buying them, you know, like I said, if you're going to buy them, do so when they're, you know, on price point drops and stuff like that. Don't do it when they're out there paying full price for this stuff because, yeah, it's definitely not worth like that $50+ price, but it's definitely worth like the under 50 is what it is there. So, and same thing with this guy. This is not worth $70, but it's worth like 35 or so, maybe 40 at most. So, but yeah, like I said, couple good knives, couple decent blades, and you know, overall just good quality knife making is what it is there. Yeah. Pop that back in place there. I would say of all four of these, I'd say the two effing glows. I think I like the N690 better just because it's a little bit lighter than this one is. However, that being said, this one does feel slightly better in my hand for the 154 CM. Overall, comparing this to that Stezovan, I think that's how you pronounce the name of that company. It's like night and day, basically. I think the F and Glow wins on that one for the deal. However, that being said, my favorite knife today of these four fixed blades, and it mostly has to do with size, is definitely our DC53 big old GTKII. Just because I could easily see taking this into the woods and using it as like basically a machete essentially, and then doing other stuff with it too. And the fact that this has, just like the other ones, multiple spots of jimping on it. You got a little bit of jimping right here on this part of the handle. You got a whole jimping spot right there to do strikes for a ferro rod. And then you have all kinds of jimping throughout the top of the blade. There's what it is. Or honestly, if I was going to do like ferro rod stuff, given how there's multiple spots on this part of it here, I think I could easily get like a spark right there. Is what it'll be then. Just like pulling a ferro rod through is what it is there. So, but yeah, my only drawback is like, what the fuck is with the hole right at the very back of the blade? There's what it is. Like, it just seems very weird. But overall, like I said, just feels very nice. I don't know if I can actually cut through this last little piece here with this or not. I guess I can, yeah. Yeah, it definitely cuts pretty smoothly. So, I don't know if that was as smooth as the other ones or not, actually. Like, it felt fairly smooth. But comparing to the 154 CM, then obviously the N690, I think those are both a little bit smoother than the DC53 steels it is then. Obviously, for those who don't know about DC53, it is basically D2 on crack. So, and yeah, I have another one down there that is similar to this, but a little bigger even, I think, if I'm not mistaken, size-wise, and that thing is a fucking massive chopper. So I can easily see this being just a choppiness, basically. So, yeah, overall, 4 good blades. You know, like I said, if they're on sale 50% or less, like definitely pick them up, or if they do a price drop and then drop it even farther than that or whatever, they'd all be worth picking up at those prices. That's why I pick them up at half price. However, if they're full price, they're not worth that price. So, and you should always look for deals, like that's what it is. Like there's several other blades right now I'm looking at right now that are all effing glows and stuff like that. They're all similar. I think they're similar size to that GTK or they're either that or they're about the same size as these guys right here is what it is. But they're all that $70 price tag and like 10% off right now. So there's no way I'm paying like $60-something for a knife that should be like 35 or 40. But yeah, like I said, overall, not bad blades at all. But again, like with this 154 CM, I don't care if you're charging half price or not on that one. The fact that they're initially charging $70 for this, and the fact that it had like right along the micarta handle scales and stuff there's like obviously spots that need to be like either sandpapered down or rubbed off or something like that. Sandpaper is what it is there. And the fact they didn't take the time to do that is very disappointing because, again, like if you're paying that kind of price tag, I don't care if it's 35 or 70, that should not come with imperfections like that, either one of those price points. So, but that being said, that's pretty much it for today. I'll be back next Friday. Well, I'll be back Tuesday on Honda's chat about probably 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, give or take. And then I will be back on this channel, though, for Freedom Friday, most likely. Unless I do like a special grandstand or something this coming week or whatever. And then it'll either be next Saturday or next Sunday. We'll do another Slicey episode. I will be doing a D2 dagger then. And we'll probably be doing a couple different fixed blades. Or not fixed blades. We'll be doing a fixed blade D2 dagger. And we'll be doing a couple, what do you call them now? Folding knives. Which, that one might not be labeled as like D2 dagger, or it might be like its own like little parentheses or whatever there, but most likely it'll be folding knife versus folding knife, DC53 battle or something like that, because I have the one I talked about before, and then I got another one that I had come in recently that are both DC53 steel, and they're the only two that I found right now on Amazon in that price, in like the $20 price point, where they actually are folders, because everything else that I've ever found that is the DC53 steel is either something like this big old fixed blade right here, or it's like a smaller fixed blade, but they're all fixed blades, and they're all anywhere from like 30 to 45 something dollars or more then. So anyway, that being said, that's what I'm at for the day. Hope you guys enjoyed this stream. It seems like pretty much every single one of these knives I could slice with exception of the, well, I guess technically I probably could pull out the other one now, since I did everybody else. We'll do this before we leave then. Because I got another piece of the, what you call it over here for this guy. And I can just simply, like, essentially, like, slide the paper through the blade to show how it can cut. We'll use another one of these little clacking things. So, because I do kind of want to see how sharp this boy is right now. Yeah, I mean, I guess technically there's like a little bit of jimping right here, but it's just weird because it so seamlessly fades into the handle. Like, I don't know if we'd even be able to get a spark off that if that's the case or not. Maybe that's why they did the spine the way they did on the sides. Here's what it is, so that way you can actually be able to use that as like a potential ferro rod sparker or whatever then. I don't know. Seems kind of silly either way, but yeah, let's go ahead and try this then. Yeah, it looks a little bit. I would think that should be able to cut a little bit better than that, actually. So, yeah, it definitely feels like it's not up to par on that one. There's an edge there for sure, but it definitely doesn't feel like it's much of one, honestly. That is disappointing. I'm almost like, given the fact of how much shit I popped off of this too, with a Kleenex here. Let me see if I can get something off there or not. Yeah, like given how much of that crap was on there, I'm seriously wondering if somebody didn't take this thing, use it a bunch, and then just send it back, and it still looked pretty nice, or whatever. Then, and claimed it was like whatever, because you would think it should be. Yeah, I guess that. Yeah, no, it's still kind of rough actually. Like that's not cutting anywhere near as smooth as it should be cutting. And it should be cutting all the way through, not stopping like halfway or whatever there. Yeah, it's definitely some rough cuts on that one for sure, man. Yeah, that shouldn't be giving me that rough of a cut, honestly, for a blade that's like right out of the factory line, basically. So, yeah, I would say, honestly, this one is the one to stick away from then. This, Sita Vivian, I guess I pronounce it there. Or it's like buyer beware kind of thing, or whatever then. So, that is disappointing, dude, especially considering how good the other ones all were. But, again, can't win them all, I guess. But anyhow, like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. I'll be back, like I said, most likely next Friday for another episode of Freedom Friday. And then we'll do our regular weekend streams. That's what it is. Till later. I'll see you guys in those ones. And if you are interested in me on the panel with Honda and Company, we will be at the eHonda 42,000 channel come Tuesday night is what it is. Discussing whatever for his weekly Gay Frog chat. There's what it'll be. So maybe we'll talk more about the asteroid that hit Ohio the other day. Maybe we'll talk about other stuff if that'd be the case then. Probably war in Iran will be topic of the day, I'm guessing there. So, but anyway, other than that, hope you guys enjoyed this Slicey Boy Sunday episode. I'll be back, like I said, next week for another episode where we'll discuss some other various blades. But until then, have a good one. Always be carrying. Always be situationally aware. Always know your knives and what they're capable of. And always test your knives before you take them out in the field, just because you never know. It could be a situation like with this guy, where it's not quite as sharp as you think it is out of the box, especially compared to the other guys that were easily able to just swipe right through that stuff. So, yeah, like I said, very, very disappointed in that guy for sure. But again, who's to say if it wasn't, used as like a cut deal or whatever, and then sent back, or it could have been a return. It could have been something where they just didn't do the proper edge on it to begin with, what it is there at the factory. So, maybe I'll give that a couple swipes through the sharpener or something like that and see if I can't do a little better edge on there or something. And if it is, better edge retention, if that be the case, then, it is what it is. But, that's about it though for that one. So, till later, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Stay safe. Stay vigilant. All that good stuff. And have a good one, y'all. And have a great rest of your Sunday. And later, y'all.